Hello everybody and welcome to Let's Play Combat Mission Beyond Overlord. Canyon Armageddon. Going into battle number 5 out of 7. As you can see by the artillery marks here, yeah, definitely suffer some damage, and the infantry, it's really rare to see infantry in their full strength. Yeah, suffered around 15% or so, 15 to 20% infantry casualty. Trying to conserve some armor. I don't know whether that was a good decision to ground our infantry into this kind of ambushes where they're beset by the tanks in the middle especially, and out of 7 units that I sent in the middle trying to push the line, only 3 survives to fight this battle, so it was a complete rout. Granted, we fought in the dark and was not able to see whether the Germans will bring that many tanks. Around 7 or so. A couple of them tigers, presumably. It was pretty bad. To compensate for the losses, we have these tanks. Firefly is a welcome sight. Cromwell's too, Cromwell 7s and 4s. They are equivalent to Sherman's 3s, or at least in the early versions, and they have lower profile and doesn't suffer the manufacturing defect that kind of depreciates the amount of, nullifies the amount of plating the Shermans had. Cromwell does not suffer from that problem. The map has expanded once again to reveal more field. One thing that is different now is that it seems that we have reached almost the zenith of the hill. So after this point, as you can see, the farmhouses in front of us, that is going to be the highest point in the map, it appears like. So if we take that point, we are able to oversee all the surrounding areas and able to have a pretty good line of sight from there. Now on the right side, I think it's the start of the Verriers Ridge. It's not too high. In real life, it's around 27 meters. Apparently that's the highest point in the region, so yeah, it's pretty flat, this area. And of course the Germans would have taken it and is probably defending it really staunchly. Yeah, waiting for us, so we need to start our artilleries in the earnest. And trying to set up our forces just to prepare for possible German counterattack. I think German commander there used something called concentric panorama attack. That's the tactics they used to tire the aggressors out, perhaps, because after we have taken certain property, a bit of pause before the inner concentric circle of attack begins with the armor and fresh men from Germany and Eastern Front. So it has been pretty hard going. Yeah, it has been historically too, as the Canadians were forced to defend very much the properties or the areas, land that they've taken, as the Germans clashed into them one by one in waves, and it was really hard going for them as they tried to defend amid breaking down of communications and suffering from illnesses like dysentery, which is basically a very aggressive form of diarrhea. So I've set up the troops like this, with the tanks once again following up behind the infantry. I still believe the infantry will be able to push on ahead and serve as a bit of reconnaissance to see whether we should be expecting some German counterattack, or whether we can push forward in order to gain those farmhouses once again. Yeah, our next objective. Yeah, any kind of significant cover or homelet is going to be our next destination. So we set up our troops such. And yeah, you can see some of the tanks here, and the left flank is defending the flank of our general advance to a group of houses called Troteval. I think it's just the farm, the name of the farm. And it's a pretty nice place, that Troteval, with nicely, nice landscaping. with trees surrounding the entire complex of houses. Now I'm trying to find the artillery spotter, and I found one here. They've all been replenished with 100 or so artillery rounds, very helpful for almost all the operations. And they will start very early in trying to, aim their guns at the suspected German positions near the objectives, near the houses. Yeah, so we are not going to waste any time with them, and we'll try to soften the German resistance or counterattack if that ever happens before the infantry gets to face them. So yeah, on the right flank, we're trying to wait for the Germans for the first few turns. We're being rather very conservative. However, on the left flank, we've decided to just push on ahead with the infantry, using the one little cover the field offers, and also a bit of trees on the side of the road, as you can see right here. Yeah, it's a bit of a gamble, because counterattack could happen on the left side and make our attack, well, basically stop that our attack. While on the right side, there could be nobody defending the ridge, so we might be wasting some of our turns trying to wait for the Germans. But we are sending our reconnaissance party, the expedition party, anyways, into the field, so we'll see what happens. Tanks here will be kept in reserve somewhat before moving up and trying to support our infantry from behind. And the line of sight remains a bit of a mystery for me. If you're traveling by field, then the line of sight will be cut very shortly, so you're not going to aim very far with the tanks or even guns, although they're situated in some strategic positions with a bit of a cover. Yeah, on the right flank we are using this little expedition force in order to see and test the waters. On the left flank we are advancing in full, using the field and the road. Yeah, and this is the group of houses that we tried to... And there's already a tank. Yeah, we identify. So this has not happened in the last battle during the dark, but now we are able to identify pretty quickly. The Panzer 4, they assume. So it's going to be pretty... yeah. We are suspecting that there will be some sizable force there. So I have adjusted my artillery in order to pound this area. Yeah, based out of that Panzer 4. Based on the presence of the Panzer 4, I suspect that there will be just the rows of Germans with machine guns entrenched in the woods ahead. So next turn, I set up positions to cross into the adjoining field to the farm, while we continue our progress, yeah, along the road. And here we are trying to... Yeah, I mean, I decided to move the troops up, but not too far away from where we started. Most of the reserves are still in the woods, trying to identify if any tank is nearby. In the middle, we really do not have any troops. Yeah, so we are basically using these two groups to advance. There will be no interplay or no support between them. So we identified a tank, although it's gone somewhere which disappeared, and there's some gunfire sound already. Yeah, you can see the tracers. The Germans have set up with machine guns, and we are pounding them with the gun that I've set up over there. They set up along the road, which is pretty smart, although they could have allowed us to travel even further, draw us a bit toward the farm before opening up using the hedgerows. And I've set up some guns here as well, but so far no action. The artillery started falling in the right flank. Yeah, in preparation for our advances. I don't really know exactly what kind of resistance, if any, will be there, but just Yeah, so starting out with the artillery first. And these guys are not moving up, while the guys already in the field trying to provide covering fire. Yeah, so the second turn sees an early battle on the left flank, and we need to bring our artillery forward, trying to advance further. Yeah. Alright, so the third turn we are trying to bring up the forces from the rear, the heavy weapons, the mortars and the like, to see if we can pound that area with the advent of artillery strikes while moving further up. You can see by the hedgerows how rough this terrain is. It's all zigzag up and down. The guns are still firing at high explosive shots. I don't know whether that is making a difference. Yeah, and the tank has not made its appearance after we identified in the first turn. And here it's really interesting. I thought there was a sniper fire that targeted this mortar, and it lost the unit, but I don't know exactly what led to this injury or loss of unit here for the mortar team. I suspect it's sniper, as I said, but I haven't really seen any snipers. It could have been just it got caught in the edge of the field and I don't know, fell on the mortar or something and injured itself. Yeah, the artillery started falling on the right flank, because the right flank, the artillery spotter was able to visually identify its target without each line of sight being broken. So that's why the artillery arrived early and accurately. I don't know about accurately, but definitely early. Still waiting for the artillery to drop, and I think this is going to happen in this turn 4. Still not moving any of the tanks. I'm a scaredy cat. Don't want to lose any of the tanks right now, because I know that the Germans will still be bringing those 7 or 8 panzer tanks that scared me very much in the tail end of the last battle, including some Tigers. So I'm basically putting the tanks on reserve still, while the infantry will do the hard work of being blasted first. I mean, I don't think this is what I should be doing really. If I actually commanding the troops here, I definitely would have put some tanks in order to help the troops here not being entrenched by the machine gun fire. But here, there were so many German tanks, so kind of afraid to put anybody up front and become vulnerable. Yeah, some mortar guys on the right flank moving up. And now, yeah, the artillery barrage starts on the left flank as well near Troteval. And the panzer have moved into position to fire at the troops trying to advance along the road, and then getting hit by high explosive shells. Yeah, dropping on the ground, taking cover. It's understandable. Yeah, so tank has joined the fight, German panzer, and it's not a really good, I don't know what you call it, situation for the guys on the left flank. So we're basically not really moving at all from where we ended up, just trying to get into position while waiting for the artillery to subdue or repress the Germans from raking our infantry. Some of them are even crawling, but still a bit of a, I mean, I'm still trying to move the troops up, and I'm using the carriers in the right flank in order to support the infantry that are moving up and taking up shop in the brush over there, the right flank, along with the troops that traveled into the field and has provided a bit of a cover And I'm using the half track and moving it across the field because that's the only... I have a heavy gun over the right side, and that's the only vehicle able to transport it. So I'm thinking about transporting the guns as well. As we move up on... as we climb the hills. Maybe I'm going to have a... we're going to arrive at an area where we can have a better line of sight across the field, so... decided to move the guns if we can. Yeah, still moving up on the left flank. While the tanks and the other German defenders are concentrating on the guys on the road. We are trying to move the rest of the infantry using the field. Yeah. So in order to not to lose progress. And the artillery is still falling. Yeah, it's been hit. So the panzer is definitely deterring our guys trying to travel along the road. They're having a bit of trouble there, and then half track is moving to other side. Also looking for any Germans trying to sneak for the middle. So keeping the training still, the artillery guns are still training on the original target of both farms. And the next turn, turn 6, still the same thing, trying to move using the field. And on the right flank, yeah, more action now. The tanks are finally moving, trying to support the infantry a bit. Now on the left flank, as you can see, we're still being embittered by the German tank. Trying to move up the heavier weapons like Piat, and the tank is now moving toward us. But we are trying to move the heavier weapons such as Piat and mortars using the wheat field, under the cover of the wheat field, so if the tanks arrive, and we'll be able to use a Piat on the flank in order to deter it or fight it. And some of the Germans are running away from the artillery, so the artillery does work in order to drive the Germans out or push them back a bit. And now on the right side, the tanks are starting to move in order to support our infantry. And our infantry have seen what is up on ahead and have not really identified any tanks or guns, so that's why I'm moving the tanks. Yeah, and now the German barrage has started. Yeah, these guys on the road are suffering the most. And the guns now hiding because I don't want the gun's position to be revealed to the enemy artillery spotter. And I don't think the gun has been very effective at all against the entrenched Germans in the woods. Yeah, so we have successfully, I think we are suppressing and stabilizing the situation somewhat on the left flank after a couple turns of heavy fighting where we are driven back a bit, or we were stopped dead in our tracks. And we are moving our artillery targets a bit, so we'll still be able to pressure them the next turn. We're not losing any more time or delay between the firing. Yeah, so I mean, never stop moving, never stop moving. The tanks are also moving, the infantry on the right side is also moving from the turning positions finally. Now we are making some moves here because I suspect that the Germans were... I mean, I don't know whether Germans know that we are coming using the wheat field, but they're apparently targeting the road, so we're advancing toward areas where there are not any barrages, any resistance. The path of least resistance, that is. Yeah, so here the armor is moving, a lot of activity. Yeah, the guns are also there as well, and Firefly is finally moving. Kind of curious why the panzer stopped shooting, so I'm trying to provoke the enemy panzer into moving once again. I mean, just a few meters toward us, and it could be in the range of our tanks and our gun, but it refuses to move. Artillery is definitely having its effect, and the tanks have now joined in blasting the Germans. They're fleeing from the area. The right flank, yeah, the tanks moving up along with the infantry. Alright, so yeah, stop the artillery barrage as we get near and near toward our target to see what we have brought on the enemy. I think we're going to start once again after we identify for sure where the enemy is. First few turns were just barrages based on our suspicion. Now it's going to be direct fire or directed fire based on the presence of enemy. And artillery spotters moving up a bit toward the area in order to shorten the delay, while the infantry is taking up position. And here we are trying to move a bit further up on the right flank as well, for the Verriers Ridge. Yeah, still targeting infantry. The German artillery is still landing here, but no serious damage. Because we are, I think, under rather good cover, although I'm worried about the tank right there. And it's within the artillery range and now retreating somewhat because, yeah, I'm afraid of whether it's going to get hit by the artillery strike and be disabled. Normally it doesn't get hit by the artillery, it's purely random chance. But, you know, I cannot really... and if I have an opportunity, I just get it out of the way, wait for a better situation. Yeah, they're basically retreating. I don't know whether that has to do with the low morale they're suffering. I'm not so sure exactly what kind of morale, level of morale that they had at the end of the last battle, but it kind of continues. It does get preserved, so I started with around 86% morale. Now it's dropped to 82%. It's not too bad. Yeah, so turn 9 already. The right flank, we are moving up. Trying to create a bit of a front, bit of a line. The left flank, we are basically doing what we have been doing. Resuming our march into Troteval. We stopped our artillery barrage on the right flank as well. I don't know whether it was a good idea, but I noticed that the shells were around half. So I'm basically preserving it until we found out for sure what kind of resistance, if any, is around those areas. Yeah, forward march. And still there are some Germans under the cover of wood areas along the road, so we need to get them out. Now it falls upon the artillery, not artillery, the infantry to do that task. Although, I mean, we have a lot of men under our command still. The initial attack from the Troteval farm really didn't damage our fighting capability. And we're not bringing the tanks too, so basically pushing through with brute force method. The broad front so that we are able to attack them. Yeah, we are able to attack them with a lot more firepower from left or right flank as we envelop them. Yeah. Still covering them, covering our advance through the wheat field. Yeah, so some good advances. Not much happened in terms of fighting. So turn 10, so a bit of a organization is necessary after the first battle. The right flank, we are continuing to set up the line in order to get into the objective. I don't know exactly what is happening in the left flank, but we are waiting for the troops to arrive and want to also wait for the tanks to arrive from the back. Still worried about the tank. Has been dormant for a while, so I don't know exactly what is happening. It's targeting something, but I don't know exactly what it's doing. It's not really doing anything, so I kind of guessing that it was damaged in one of the artillery barrage, but I cannot really say for sure. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm stopping the troops, in order to move the guys and, I guess, quote-unquote provoke the German defenses to reveal itself by moving the guys along the road. Once again, using the infantry to kind of test the waters, which is not really preferable. But yeah, I mean, if the tank moved a bit further up the road toward us, then the gun would have been able to target it. Just staying there, maybe it was damaged. Also wondering what happened to all the other panzers that the Germans had, because they were able to bring 7 or 8 in the last battle. Pretty scary sight, and I don't know exactly the fighting capability of the Cromwells, but they better be able to do well. I'm keeping the tanks in a group so that they'll be able to identify the target, then apply the maximum firepower from as many tanks as possible. On the right flank, we are moving the infantry, yeah, and now forming a bit of a line here. The Americans also started moving, indicated by the green target or green base. And the artillery started firing from the other artillery spotter on the right flank. The tank is staying still. It's not fired a shot from turn 3 or 4, so yeah, I don't know. Something has to give, and I think the next turn I start moving once again. Yeah. So turn, I think 12. Yeah, start moving once again the left flank, the right flank too. The tank has, tank has stopped moving because I'm waiting for the infantry to move up once again. I don't want to create too much traffic, and I don't know exactly what the Germans have in terms of artillery. But if the artillery strike happens in the middle of the town while everybody is running and getting mixed up, then it's going to be pretty bad for us. So yeah, that's my line of thinking. And trying to advance right now toward our objective on the right flank using the infantry. All of them are sneaking. I don't know whether that's going to make any difference. I mean, at least they're going to the ground and be more vigilant. Now moving the tanks up, I realized my mistakes. Trying to keep the tanks as close as possible to infantry in order to support them when they come under fire. It's a bit of a different tactic that I'm using compared to the left flank, where I didn't move the tanks at all as the infantry was attacked by the defenders of Troteval. Yeah, so in the field here, I'm trying to move the heavy weapons between the Piazza and trying to attack the tank from the side. Yeah, the German panzer is not moving at all, or firing. I'm presuming it is damaged and not able to attack us. And here the tanks are moving up, along with the infantry. Yeah, so the Piazza are moving a bit forward. The barrage is still happening, targeting the Germans. I don't know exactly where they are, but they're supposedly congregated. A whole load of them congregated in the wood, just on the edge of the farmhouse. This German tank is probably disabled. It's not really moving, not shooting, not doing anything. Maybe setting up for some kind of trap or something, I'm not so sure. But undaunted, we travel once again. Yeah, so we are closing in and already identified the possible German defender in one of the buildings up there. Yeah, finally, more infantry joins us and moving up. Same goes for the left flank. Tank is now joining the infantry and trying to attack this farm from the right flank, where I think it leads to a road. It connects to the objective, the right flank, the farm on the right. And then after the farm, the terrain kind of slopes downward, as you can see by the darker green gradient shading toward the northern edge or the eastern edge. Yeah, it's a bit of slow going. I don't know. The artillery is still falling, so I guess I don't want to arrive too early at Troteval. My objectives are just to take the farmhouses, so with half of the turns now spent, it's a good time to move and see if we can push forward with the concentrated attack. Yeah, so artillery is still falling, but I think that's probably going to be the last turn for the artillery. Basically, the infantry is moving up, right into the range of the tank's machine gun, not even its gun. Yeah, so a whole load of troops still to move, including that Piat tagging behind. Yeah, so some nice advance in the law of the battle before we get to the objectives themselves. So you can see a really bold movement on both sides, especially on the right flank. Still targeting with the artillery. Okay, so I guess decide to use all the artillery rounds on the farm as we get closer and closer. Within the range of the Piat to target the tank now. Yeah, so everybody is moving up, and one of the houses catch on fire or the ground caught on fire because of the artillery. It's a bit of a mess with a lot of clipping of infantry and tanks. The Americans staying together. The HQ unit is commanding these Americans. Same goes for that flamethrower American. But they can, I think Canadian troops can be commanded by an American officer and vice versa. That's the Piat unit, leading the charge, so to speak. I don't know how that really happened, because Piats are supposedly slower due to the heavy weapons that it has to lug around. It's nice to see that they're, not trying to outpace anybody within the group. Maybe if it's under the command of an officer, it gets more organized. Yeah, there's a pretty good hit over there. I don't know whether the tank is shell-shocked or something. Definitely seeing a lot of artillery fire coming its way. Yeah, so that was it. Rather quiet but pensive turn. They're really going to expect counterattack at any moment, or ambush at any moment. On the left flank here in the next turn, in this turn, planning to just keep moving up ever closer to the tank. Yeah, the Piat is able to perhaps target the tank. So does the infantry, but yeah, it's not going to really work. And here the front is moving up on the edge of the refield just across the farm of Verriers Ridge. Tanks also moving into the field, and the field itself is rough enough that it's going to be shielded from any enemy guns or tanks. Well, I mean, if enemy guns or tanks are overlooking our approach, then things might be different. But the field is rather rough that it cuts off line of sight for the short distances. So I'm kind of betting that the tanks will be shielded and be able to move up with the infantry. If the infantry can identify the guns as they move up ever closer to the farmhouses. And there comes a point where the fields kind of give away to open field, and we'll be able to use line of sight to have longer range of attack. But for now, within the field, we can just move without feeling vulnerable so much. Yeah, so this middle guy is also moving too. Undaunted. He's expecting some kind of ambush from the left line. Because the tank is still viable. It has not been destroyed, or hasn't been no indication that it was disabled. And here as well, rather quiet. But they know that the tanks are coming probably, because 5 or 6 tanks are moving at the same time is going to create some kind of noise. And yeah, okay, so finally found that German machine gun position here, and we scattered right away. But not running away from the side of speed appearance from the Germans. I think in the last battle, the Canadians were just running away. Like, I guess they got scared because it was dark and didn't know where their fire was coming from, but they were prone to panic. But not now. They stay there, stay put. Yeah, so the PH are now able to target the tank. And here we are using the carriers and other infantry to move up into position to counter that German ambush. I think I lost some troops there, unfortunately, and the artillery also is targeting a new area now. Yeah, and the rest of the artillery spotters are also training their guns, trying to shell with the last remaining ammunition, punch a hole so that we'll be able to take these areas for our next battle. So the battle is now firing up in the right side. Left side has been pretty quiet for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 turns. Germans are all hiding or something, or preparing for a new ambush in the next line of defense. Yeah. And the rest of the troops on the right flank, oh no, they're now throwing mortars at us at the same time. Heavy mortar strikes. They're on the higher up, overlooking our approach, so as long as they can see us, they're able to, as you can see on the left hand side, there's a puff of mortar rounds targeting us. Now I think they're gonna target us in the middle as we move up, forming a line. So yeah, we are being hit from very different sides, and the German defenses have not been really compromised by our initial artillery barrage. That was not really that effective at all, after all. Yeah, I wondered if they could at least displace the Germans from their defensive areas. There's a tank, there's a light tank, now aiming at one of our core infantry units. It's a light tank, I don't know exactly what it is, Mark III perhaps? Mark II, Mark III, not Hotchkiss. The enemy tank on the left flank has not been destroyed yet, but I think we have identified for what it is. Spook 3G, and the beloved tank that was produced the most, I think, and that was the most prevalent in the Normandy area. Apparently there were some King Tigers too in Normandy, and they saw some action. I hope that I don't get to face it in this battle, but who knows? There might be some king tigers lurking around. So we still move up, trying to envelop the area and attack from every different side that we can, infiltrate the farm, trying to overwhelm the defenses. Yeah, as you can see, the spotter has activated its calling for the artillery strike once again inside the Troteval farm. And moving the target toward our stiffest resistance here, and it seems that they're more heavily defended than the farm itself. And this initial infantry expedition has faced a lot of attacks and is in tatters. I think they're about to break. And yeah, finally it's been knocked out. It's not been knocked out for all that time. I don't know exactly what happened, but yeah, it has not fired a single shot from like turn 5 or 6. I don't know what was wrong with it. Then again, there could have been some mechanical problems or something that I cannot really prepare for. And the mortar strike and the tank finally drives our Canadian, breaks our Canadian line. Wonder whether there'll be any counterattack. And there's a tiger. The tiger that the Harris does so much in the last battle finally makes its appearance. And we are dangerous closely to its range, but as you can see, we're almost at the edge of their line of sight before it breaks. I don't know how that really works, but it doesn't appear that we are blocked from their side, but it is. So I mean, we are able to park our tanks and fight for entrapping those tanks and try to coax it out of position into our tank's firing range. The left flank we are in full charge mode, although I mean everybody's sneaking, so sneaking charge. I don't know whether that makes any sense. In the middle, we are moving up a bit more now that the tank has been disabled. Yeah. Thank goodness for the Piach that I was able to bring around all the time, getting some use. Yeah, so everybody's crawling away from the killing field, the zone of fire. Some of them are broken, some of them in panic mode, and we are bringing in fresh troops to bide our time, and as I said, trying to lure them into our... as you can see, it breaks just before it reaches the road in the farm, the village area, so just trying to lure the tanks by creating a lot of noise from the other side and giving them really no choice, making ourselves a bit but enticing for them to try to chase, because they cannot see through the wood on the left side, so we can park the Cromwells and pound away at the mortar and the machine gun nest. The same goes for the Shermans on the right side, while we park our Fireflies just behind in order to aim at the position where we can expect the tanks to appear, both on the left or right side of the wood. The mortars are warming up once again. Not the mortars. Artillery is about to strike once again. So we're bringing all the attacking options that we have against this defensive area. We really need to take this objective. Yeah, so the tanks are pounding away at our infantry, but it's not seeing our tanks, surprisingly enough. I mean, finally I think it has identified the tank. Yeah, it's moving back. I gave them order to move them back a bit because I'm worried about the tigers still. I mean, we can ambush them, but the tiger is able to fire first, and I think it's a better unit than one of our Shermans will be lost, so I'd rather just lure it out and then attack at the same time with multiple tanks than to face it piecemeal. And here we've heard some screams. I don't know whether it's from the right side or left side. These Cromwells are doing a nice work on the mortar and suppressing the machine guns. And finally machine gun had enough and moving back. Working really well. Now artillery started falling on the German defenders on the right side. Yeah. So finally the artilleries arrived so we can suppress them while we try to reorganize our broken troops. Yeah, so there has been some action-packed turn 18. Turn 19, still moving up on Troteval farm. We are approaching edge of the farm here. While the tanks are moving up, and moving up the extra infantry from the right flank as well. Yeah, left side we are moving into the edge of the farm. While in the middle we are basically marching unabated. Not even sneaking anymore. Because we know that there will be some tanks supporting the infantry. And I'm kind of getting worried about the prospect of not being able to capture the objective before time runs out. So we are moving up, forming a new line, trying to reorganize the tanks and infantry, especially the tanks, in order to assume a position of superiority. I identified 2 tanks on the right side, and there were around 7, I think I mentioned already, but there were around 7 or 8 panzers in total on the last battle, so I don't think Germans lost tanks between battles. I think they still have all that panzer, but they're just, I guess, earmarked them for some kind of counterattack or reserves. I don't know exactly what is happening with their panzers. Cromwell tank is getting too eager. Didn't see the mortar just in its way, but he's able to evade it. Yeah, he's okay. And the Tiger has been identified, and the Firefly misses its first shot. But then still he's able to get at least one more shot before the Tiger is able to face us. And is able to destroy it with its second shot. So it's been, yeah, so it's worked to advantage. And I know what the smoke was. Maybe it's from the Firefly 6-pounder shot that created the smoke. Artillery is now starting to strike the, yeah, artillery is starting to strike the middle central area of the Troteval farm. Alright, so the right side we are still trying to reorganize our infantry. Left side we are going into the farm itself now, knocking on its door to see whether there are some more resistance or enemy that we have to fight. We have to kind of hurry up. Only 6 turns left. Tank's done a nice job trying to show themselves against this wood area so that the enemy tank cannot see us directly, but then if it decides to poke its head out, then we can identify it and have an upper hand. Get an extra shot or 2 before it is able to engage us. Yeah, and we are lining up the mortars and heavy weapons on the edge of the wood as well, so that able to target the tanks or any heavy weapons with the Piat and the mortars. And the artillery is starting to drop on the German defensive areas, driving these guys into the houses and isolating them. And here, oh yeah, I find the guy here, the extra German attacker or defender. The Piat finds it with its good eye, and is actually walking toward the pressured German defender. And this is, yeah, we are basically approaching the farm. Only a little stone wall is keeping us from entering the farm, and yeah, we just keep pounding away with the Cromwells, doing a really good job in suppressing the defenders on the right. they're really good against infantry. Alright, so basically the same deal. We're just preparing for an all-out attack on the objectives. These infantry, they think that it's a mortar, so it's not going to be too much trouble. We're really close. And I think that mortar has already spent all its round. Yeah, trying to move up these guys. They're mostly composed of Piat and mortars. The tanks also moving up, supporting us, and these are the Piats trying to protect the tank's flank. Still have to be wary about possibility of German anti-tank teams, Panzer Schrecks and Panzerfaust attached to the German infantry unit. Yeah, so we stopped artillery barrage. I think we spent it all. Now we are targeting this on the other edge of the farm here, trying to see whether there'll be the place where they run to. The enemy will run to. So we identified that as a 81mm mortar. It's a pretty heavy mortar, I think. More tanks joining the attack, and Piat, yeah, is aiming squarely at the mortar gun, and I think it destroyed it. Yeah, knocked it out. It's a good job, another good job by the Piat unit. Very effective at close range. And now the reformed line is trying to once again move up toward the Verriers Ridge. There's one more extra tank, the light tank that we have not seen after we identified it. The right side of the map. I don't know exactly where it is. And we are, yeah, entering into the town. Troteval is basically open for us. Now we are aiming to enter it using the cover. There's not a lot of defenses or even returning fire from the farm there. Here, it might be a different story because there's already a tank still we have to worry about. But we have brought enough tanks so that we're able to engage it pretty quickly. I don't know, I don't know what happened to the other panzers that they were able to bring in force in the last battle. Maybe it's just waiting for us to cross that imaginary line before acting up once again. Turn 21 out of 25. Yeah, Germans seems that they're kind of retreating, at least some units. So we can see that they have at a low morale unless they get extra influx of reinforcement. It's going to stay that way in the last few battles. Still to be had in this operation. Yeah, no fire or any kind of resistance from the farm. And there's that tank, there's that light tank that we identified. And yeah, 3 tanks are now aiming at it. First shot misses. And the smart thing about the tank is it was actually reversing for the other town, other farm. So it was expecting there to be some, American tanks waiting. And at least it was able to get the most protected side for that possibility of American tank attack, and it was reversing to be able to do that, so it was pretty smart. So we have tank sighted, so we're bringing the Cromwells on the left flank for that last known area, last known location of the enemy tank, which is not a light tank. It was identified to be a Mark IV tank, so a rather capable tank. And the Troteval farm, we had identified another defender in the building. The right flank, yeah, still targeting with the artillery, a bit deeper, so we are kind of waiting for the infantry to arrive before the artillery is going to stop its barrage or it's going to run out simply out of ammunition. And he's hitting it rather closely, yeah, toward the area of German defense. This guy is apparently running, basically running away. Yeah, so everyone is moving up, including the tank. And there you go, the tank appeared once again. And it decided to engage us full, all these 6 or 7 tanks, and was promptly destroyed. He was aiming at one of the Cromwells, but the other Cromwell that was further out in the open field was able to target it and destroy it. Really good action from the British tank. And now these mortars are targeting this destroyed tank non-stop, now that he's able to see it. Kind of funny how it all works that way. Higher ground definitely has its advantages. But the thing is, they might just waste it on like some single crew unit from destroyed panzer, rather than attacking more substantial unit. Barrage is still going on, so we are waiting for it to finish, while still strafing and yeah, targeting, attacking targets of opportunity. So the identified German defender is just a crew from some destroyed tank or gun in the farm, Troteval farm. So there's not really much resistance to be had. We can still advance unabated without any kind of stoppage. Tanks are targeting all this guy running away, and we can see from now that they are in a higher ground, able to target the sloping ground underneath them now. They can see better. Far distance, 200 to 300 meters. So if we set up our guns here in this area, we will to find yeah, pretty good positions where we'll be able to defend against counterattack rather well. Artillery is still falling, making things really difficult for the Germans to organize, if they have any units to organize. And this machine gun unit is starting to displace. Yeah, the carrier is now leading the charge here, covering for our infantry. There could be some panzer strikes and anti-tank, but by now I'm just trying to use the last turns in order to take these objectives and push the line further up as much as possible, entering houses and the like. There's last known locations of Germans congregating in the wood near Troteval farm, but as we get near that, we find basically no one defending that area. Clearing the area of the Germans, and there's some still in the building, so the infantry have to do that. I don't want to get too close with either carriers or the tanks, because I mean, the barrage is still happening, as you can see, but also there might be some panzer strikes or anti-tanks nearby. Around 100 meters or so, 100 to 150 meters, I find with Piat. I don't know whether that holds true for the panzer strikes as well, but I find the Piat to have an average accuracy rating around 15 to 20%, so it's a bit of a crapshoot. Not really that accurate. So even if you find the panzer strike alone anti-tank unit in that range, you don't need to panic. Just need to calmly machine gun it and try to suppress it while reversing. It's not going to be able to hit you rather well. Although if it's lucky, it's able to hit it, but not to the point where it gets destroyed outright. And that German unit to the right has just withdrew from the battle, so leading to more morale drop. I suspect their morale to be around 30 to 40 range. They're still able to fight though, like this. And they ambushed my troops here, yeah, like that. Lost the troop right there. We have enough infantry to, and grenades to, yeah, overpower them, subdue them. And some artillery strikes still happening with mortars dropping, so and that guy was, yeah, able to take care of that guy, and also this machine gun running away, also some lucky or unlucky for them artillery strike. And you find the mortar unit here, very well protected mortar unit, firing at us from some high ground. Tanks are taking, I don't know exactly which unit it is shooting at, but it is shooting at something and suppressing that area, or covering that area at least. And this mortar unit is very efficient. It's popping up mortar rounds like with only like few seconds in between, like nobody's business. Doing a pretty good job right there. And Americans are advancing finally, trying to mop up, so to speak. So 25th turn, the last turn. Aiming to push on ahead, trying to get as much land as possible, find for ourselves the best position to start the next battle. And I think we did a pretty good job, especially in the right flank. Able to destroy 2 tanks without any damage to ours, although we brought like 7 tanks to our numerical advantage. And he's able to push on ahead with some nicely placed artillery strikes.
Yes, sir.
And this mortar unit is proving to be a very tough opposition here. Basically, one unit is holding all of these units, trying to get into the farm at bay. And here it is, overwhelming American forces, yeah, leading to a predictable outcome, surrendering. Excuse me for the grenades that was thrown just before the surrender. Should have hit a bit earlier. And this mortar unit, man, it's just, yeah, doing a really good job of keeping us at bay and resisting to the last moment, preventing us reach to the edge of the map, and basically stopping us in the middle of the town. So I was wondering whether we'd be able to fight for the rest of Troteval in the next battle, and it's kind of lost for us because we were being held up by this one unit, simply just charging with the tanks and then overpower it. But even then I was afraid of some hidden German guns, so I just let things be where they lie and prepare for the next battle. And here's another guy, yeah, in the house, easily being overwhelmed and using the tanks as well to, yeah, destroy the mortar, at least knock out its gun. But I think it survives to fight to the next battle, and insult to the injury, was able to take away at least one unit from us in the last remaining second of this battle. So that was the battle number 5 out of 7 of Canadian Armageddon. We pushed to the edge of the objective. I don't know exactly how that is going to translate in the next battle. Only 55 casualties, so it's an improvement. Although I didn't face a lot of reposition. Didn't face like 7 or 8 panzers in the last remaining moment that caused a lot of casualties. But now, yeah, we were able to take all of the objective on the right flank, so that's a victory for us. But we still have to fight for the rest of Troteval, that little sliver. I don't know whether that mortar unit is still there. This time I think we'll be able to take care of it pretty easily. And then the rest of the map doesn't really... I don't think it really expanded. I don't think it expanded that much. So I'm kind of thinking that we have reached the end of the map or something, where we're seeing the last of the map. Still have all these guns. The tanks have been replenished with its high explosive for Cromwells and anti-tank for the Firefly. Yeah, anti-tank for Firefly. So Firefly really need to go up against enemy tanks, and here is where I do expect the German counterattack to occur. Yeah, I think the Germans will receive some reinforcements in this battle. Battle number 6 out of 7. We are going into the, I guess, midday of July 22nd or 3rd. I'm not so sure. But yeah, Germans will definitely bring a lot of tanks, and if they set up the tanks that they used in battle number 4, they have even more tanks to resist us and to drive us from our gains. This is trying out the line of sight here. Unfortunately, the field with its rough terrain is blocking most of the line of sight that we can have from this high position on top of the hill, top of the ridge, but I think it's definitely better than the last time. So we can await definitely the Germans if they decide to counterattack, and they really have no choice but to counterattack from this position if they start out from whatever map space that they have. If there is still to be fight to be had. They really need to charge with the, glut of infantry, throng of infantry, and panzers, combined arms, in order to drive us back and to try to gain the cover that they so well used against us. Now the tables have turned, and we can set up some of the areas where we can ambush them and use the cover as well to try to deter them. As to the level of counterattack or the amount of units they're going to bring, who knows, but it's going to be pretty exciting because, yeah, I mean, I was able to preserve all the armament and didn't suffer a lot of casualties, so we're bringing a full force in order to be ready for whatever the enemy is going to bring. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this episode once again, and hope I can see you next time in the 6th battle of Kenya Armageddon. So until then, please stay tuned.